through some non-quarterbacks and their playing time and usage in this first round of preseason
we'll go back and forth here.
Yeah, Matthew, let's start with Keon Coleman, 100% route participation on 2 drives with the starters. Big X factor for the Bills. There are worlds where he could be their number 1 wide receiver. Are you upgrading Coleman at all after the weekend?
I think you have to, right? You mentioned there were 2 drives with the starters, right? He basically had a 27% target share. Now, again, Matt Collins didn't play in this one as well. Curtis Samuel didn't play the first drive, but still, like, Keon Coleman, who, there's been different reports about in terms of his camp. The fact that he played that many snaps, he's on that many dropbacks with the first-team starters, and given his role in this offense, he is the deep threat. I think you absolutely have to move Keon Coleman up in your ranks. And when my rankings update comes out later this week, he'll be higher up for sure.
Lawrence, Andrei Iosivas, 86% route participation with Burrow, played a lot in the slot. And then also Jermaine Burton goes 3 for 82 and a touchdown, as a 38-yard touchdown reception there. What do you make of the Bengals pass catches?
Yeah, both of them played really well. Andrei Iosivas, though, is the one who started with Joe Burrow, and that's what's important right now. I think we just kind of need to keep watching the preseason games, see how it feels out, and see who wins that slot role for the Bengals, because it'll be important.
Yep. Just quickly, Brock Bowers, we're going to cover in the next segment. He and Michael Mayer, they both played over 75% of snaps with the starters. Think that the Raiders, just as a team that wants to run the ball, that is going to embrace that kind of perhaps older fashioned style of football, they might be in 12 personnel a bit, so there might be room for both of those guys to provide value.
Yeah, I mean, that's the important part, right? I mean, think about this. So, their offense coordinator is Luke Getsky, who used to be with the Bears and run a lot of 12 personnel with them. You think about Antonio Pierce and what he did once he took over the Raiders last year. They want to run the ball. They want to run the ball and play good defense, right? And so it's easier to run in 12 personnel when you've got both. Not that anyone's expecting Brock Bowers to be an amazing blocker or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is that I think they will be in 12 personnel quite a bit, because other than Adams and Jacoby Myers, there's not really another wide receiver that, we've got to find a way to get him on the field. So I think seeing both guys on there, so Bowers posted a 79% snap rate with the starters, Michael Mayer 86%. And I just want to give a shout out to my guy, Dwayne McFarland at fantasylife.com. So Dwayne watched every single preseason game, charted every single snap, and he has an entire article that talks about all the route participation, all the snaps with the starters, every single notable nugget. It's an unbelievable article, so we're taking a lot of information from this. And so Dwayne in his article notes this. Obviously, it's a small sample size, but the last time we saw that type of playing time, 79% and 86% snap rates with the starters, the last time we saw that kind of playing time for 2 starting tight ends was New England with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. So now, on a downside, again, as Dwayne notes, Bowers and Meyer each only had a 50% route participation, but still, the fact of the matter is they're out there, they're playing a bunch of snaps. I think the routes will come as they get more comfortable with the passing offense. They're still not sure whether it's going to be O'Connell or Minshew under center as well. Understand their offensive line was a bit beat up in this game as well. They didn't have all the starters in for that. So I do think if you're a Bowers believer this year, I think this was encouraging. And so again, just shout out to Dwayne McFarland at fantasylife.com. Just tons of great information. Highly recommend you looking at that article. It's 100% free. It is the single most useful article, I think, in the entire preseason, because he goes through every game and every player and all the usage and defines what it means and what it doesn't.
Indeed. Well, usage, personnel, Taysom Hill plays in every personnel package, Lawrence,
yes.
And gets used in weird and creative ways. He played 67% of snaps with the starters. Is he a guy that you think you'll be drafting a lot relative to ADP?
He just might be. I watched that game, the Saints versus the Cardinals, and they did not lie. I saw him line up in the slot. He lines up at tight end. He was lined up at fullback for a couple plays in front of Alvin Kamara. And like you said, 67% of the snaps there. He's always going to be good for about a touchdown every other game. I would just say, though, it's not somebody – Taysom Hill is not somebody I'm actually targeting. I would like him as my second tight end. If you're punting the tight end position and you get a guy like Brock Bowers, then I would pair a guy like Taysom Hill with him if I don't get one of those top tier tight ends.
Matthew, a guy who's getting a lot of buzz in terms of words about him out of camp is Quentin Johnston. Not as much buzz coming from actions and things he's actually doing on the field. He didn't get to play until the third drive. Are you fading the idea that Quentin Johnston is going to be a huge part of this offense?
I am. I'm not a fan. Understand that Ladd McConkey and Josh Palmer did not play in this game, right? So to your point, DJ Shark and Brendan Rice started. Think about the Chargers offense just overall. They want to be run heavy. We know that under Harbaugh and Greg Roman, their offense coordinator, they want to be run heavy. And so now you're like, okay, you've got Josh Palmer, and if you read 100 Facts, you know, like I'm pro Josh Palmer, and I do like McConkey quite a bit as well. Now you've got DJ Shark. The fact that Quentin Johnston didn't see the field until the third drive, he played 6 drives, he failed to earn a target. As far as we know, he's not injured. Like where's the production going to come from for Quentin Johnston? Again, like I'm not convinced there's enough targets to go around in this offense that wants to be run heavy. I'm not convinced there's enough targets for McConkey, Shark, and Palmer. So now, like I guess the best case scenario is that Johnston replaces DJ Shark in 3 receiver sets, like because you're gonna have or even at 2, out wide because McConkey's playing the slot. That's the expectation here, and you've got Josh Palmer. He's very inconsistent, and he doesn't seem that polished, and like he's not a guy that performed well last year as a rookie, and it's a whole new regime. It's a new general manager, it's a new head coach, it's a new offense coordinator. Like he's not their guy. McConkey's their guy, and I don't know. He'll be cheap enough in drafts that if you want to take a flyer, I don't hate it, but there are a lot better late round flyers to take a dart throw on than him.
Yep. It seems like there are lots of worlds where he's wide receiver 3 or 4 for a team that doesn't really want to pass the ball and has a quarterback who's dealing with plantar fasciitis at the moment. So it doesn't seem to be lining up for QJ. Before we move on, Matthew, any other preseason nuggets that you wanted to throw out?
I just want to mention that I thought there were couple things. First off, Brian Thomas played 100% of the snaps with the Jaguars. And so again, like we talked about with Keon Coleman, like that's pretty interesting. Again, Trevor Lawrence last year loved to throw deep, didn't connect all the time with Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's moved on to the Titans, obviously. And so I think they're starting when they go, like Christian Kirk will be on the field all the time. And like when they're in 2 wide receiver sets, Kirk will move outside. But I remember talking to Doug Peterson at the head coach, Doug Peterson at the combine. And I asked him about that. He said, we prefer Christian Kirk in the slot. That's where he's more effective. It's where he's more comfortable. We think that's the best spot for him. So I think you're going to see a lot of, Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis, and then Christian Kirk in the slot. I think that's the Jacksonville Jaguars, base personnel. I think that's what they're going to run a lot of this upcoming season. And given the inconsistency of Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas becomes pretty interesting to me. The other one I wanted to mention here real quickly was Malik Washington. Again, shout out to Dwayne who pointed this out. But Malik Washington for the Dolphins started. He played the first 9 drives, 17% target share. He also had 1 carry for 21 yards. Super fast. Now, obviously, Tirico Hill and Jalen Waddle didn't play, but given how high octane the Dolphins offense is, and given the fact that both Jalen Waddle and Tirico Hill have missed time over the last couple of years with injuries, Malik Washington is somebody I like. I'd rather take a flyer on Malik Washington late than QJ, just to give an example, right? With second to last round pick, something like that, and keep him on my bench in case something happens to Waddle or Tirico Hill. But just a name that I wanted to mention that if there was an injury to either one of those guys, he's a name for deeper leagues, and he's also a name that should be on your radar for immediately hit the waiver wire if you see that Tirico Hill or Jalen Waddle is going to miss time.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.